Alright, hi everybody. This video just want to do a quick run through on how I planned my most recent base phase and kind of show how it doesn't really have to be super complicated, and I believe that most people could design this on their own. So quickly touch on what's the whole purpose of this base phase stuff. Mainly it's aerobic adaptations. So my base phase tends to have two focuses. One is the long ride. There are certain adaptations that occur as you extend your long ride, and it doesn't matter necessarily how much power or what power zone you're in. It's more tied to the duration of the efforts, and in some cases, like how many times the muscles actually contract. And the second part is, if you use WKO, they would call it extensive aerobic intervals. So this is basically going to be sub-threshold intervals where we're concerned with extending out the duration of the interval and the time and zone in those workouts. And then finally, just aim in general to have a steady increase in our overall training load across each phase. So my principles when I go to plan it, number one is cycling is a hobby for all of us. We want to make sure we're enjoying it. Something that you love about cycling. Could be a group ride, could be a training race, could be a Zwift event, could be a mountain bike ride, a gravel ride, whatever. Just make sure you have those sorts of things in your plan. I specifically put those in my plan because I don't want to feel guilty about skipping a workout to have a fun ride. This way I build it in and it's part of the plan, so no guilt. It also has a purpose, so I can go out and do it, have fun, enjoy it, and still progress the overall purpose of my plan. I aim for 2 to 3 days of intensity each week maximum. So basically that comes down to 2 key workouts that might have efforts above endurance zone, potentially a third on the weekend depending on how out of hand my main endurance ride gets. But basically that's it. The other days are going to be active recovery or they're going to be endurance. On these key workouts where I'm doing intervals, the goal is to progress the length of the intervals over time, and also to increase the time and zone for whatever power zone we're targeting over the course of those key workouts. And you'll see this when we run through the examples. Next one, we basically want to increase overall training load week to week if possible, and generally that happens, but also don't be consumed by the charts and the metrics. Air quotes fitness and Strava is not really fitness, but think of it, this is just your training load. While it's important to make sure these kind of progress, don't get hung up on it. For this phase, the key workouts are 2 interval days that are scheduled during the week and the long endurance ride on Saturday. Alright, so here's the first block. I did these in intervals.icu. What you'll notice is that week number 1 is at the bottom and then progresses to the top. So let's talk overall training load. You can see we started around 570, then 620, 660, 680, 690. So there's a little bit of progression week to week. If you look at the key workout on Tuesday, at this phase, I'm doing tempo workouts. So these are all about 80-85% FTP targets, and progress from 3x20, 3x25, 3x30, etc. So we're basically pushing out the length of these intervals week to week. And if you look at calculate total time and zone during the workout, it generally progresses week to week. There's a little hiccup when we jump from the 3x30 to 3x40, but that's all right. I didn't sweat it. Wednesday is a endurance ride, so if I'm feeling a little fatigued from Tuesday, I can do the Wednesday workout, and since it's endurance effort, I can get through it even if I'm carrying some fatigue in, and it basically just kind of increases my training load, gets me some endurance work. Friday is, the way I like to do it, is still tempo day, but it's not quite as big as Tuesday, which is the main workout for me. This is so I can get some more tempo work and then not be completely wasted going into Saturday, which is the long ride. So this one I don't change as often. The Tuesday one changes every week. it progresses faster. The Friday one doesn't. Part of that is because if you look at the Saturday long endurance ride, here we're progressing from 3 hours to 3.5 to 4 hours. And basically you want to look at what are you capable of doing now and where do you want to get to. So if you're at, 2 hours is a long ride, okay, start at 2 hours, maybe the next week try to do 2 hours and 15 minutes, then 2.5 hours, then 2 hours and 45 minutes. Basically extend these just a little bit every week, hit a recovery week, wind it back a little bit, and then continue to progress and push these out. Personally, I do the 4 hours is about my max right now, and that is mostly because of, in the past, forcing myself to do long rides, and I was getting bored and like burnout and just unhappy with it. So I try to keep this ride long enough where I can get in a lot of endurance work and I get benefit from it. But also, if I'm starting to feel bored or unmotivated or don't want to ride or be there, then I will kind of cap it. So maybe next phase I'll push it out to 4.5 hours. We'll see, maybe 5 hours. At some point it doesn't make sense to me to do like a 6-hour ride and be a wreck for a while. So I'm happy with 4 hours for now. And then Sunday ride is a not quite as long endurance ride. So phase 2, here I'm jumping to sweet spot work. So you'll notice Saturday and Sunday basically stay the same. Wednesday stays the same. What changes are Tuesday and Friday. So here we just start a sweet spot progression. All these intervals are around 90% of FTP. I pretty much lock them in at like 88 to 91%. So progression wise, you'll see, 4x15, 3x20. So time and zone stays the same, but the interval length increases to 3x25 to 3x30 to 2x40. And then similarly on Friday, there is a progression, but it's a little slower. And that's kind of like in the previous big block of riding on the weekend. So I don't want to be totally wrecked, but this is a way that lets me get in some additional sweet spot work and do those long rides on the weekend. So block 3, this was a bit of a stretch for me. Again, when you're talking about planning, look at where you are, look at where you want to be, and make a progression to get you there. These Tuesday workouts are pretty long and tough, and I knew they were going to be difficult, and they were basically a stretch for me. If I bailed out at the end of some of these, that was okay. I felt like these were sort of pushing the limits for what I was comfortable doing. And then Friday, I started pulling in just some shorter threshold intervals, and this was mostly so that I could kind of remind my body what threshold actually felt like, what riding at threshold felt like. Some of it for pacing, and there's some aerobic benefit to doing this work, but a lot of it for me was just the idea of I wanted the pacing and the feel of riding at threshold. That's pretty much how I planned out these. I guess the one other thing I'll note is that I used to do a 3 on 1 off, and then when I used Trainer Road about 16 months ago, I actually really liked the longer blocks in their sweet spot base. It felt like to me, like with this kind of work, I can handle it well. So these longer blocks let me really pile on a lot of training stress, but I don't crumble under it. I'm going to do a follow-on video on how I planned out a build phase that's based on a lot of threshold work, and that I did revert back to the 3 on 1 off scheduling, just because the intensity is higher. I want to hit all the workouts like 100%, like super hard, and smash them. So in that phase, I'm spending a little more time prioritizing recovery. That's how you can run through and plan a base phase. This all took me maybe an hour, probably less. I think part of it was just figuring out how to use intervals.icu's planning interface. So it's really not bad to knock it out on your own once you kind of have the basic idea of how you want to progress your tempo and sweet spot intervals and how you want to progress your long ride. Have a good one.